Relative to the candidates, I didn't lose myself, I'm sorry. I'm Councilman Jeff Johnson for Ward 8. One of the things to be able to recognize that the African American vote particularly is going to be significant in this primary. And knowing that it is important as you listen to all these questions, fundamentally, however you answer individually, the question ultimately is what is the commitment that you will make to us on the question of fairness, diversity, bias. We're not saying that we want you to not prosecute those who commit crimes in our community. Lord knows we fight for those to be arrested who commit crime. But we expect them to be charged for what they've done. We expect them to be treated like white folks are treated or everyone else are treated. When it comes to charging and when it comes to how they're treated at the grand jury. And so when it's all said and done, we can ask you individually about what you will do about definitely, in the end, what are you saying to us that will speak to our concerns about bias, about unfairness, lack of inclusion, and diversity. And I need to understand what are you saying to us that if we vote for you, what we get in return. And that's a fundamental question. It's time for you to tell us what you will do to respond to what we need as candidates if you are elected.
After the four candidates answer this question, we're going to accept questions from the audience. So start thinking about some things that you would like to ask the different candidates.
In the first 6 to 9 months, I intend to get together a steering committee of former, current prosecutors, defense attorneys, and law enforcement to look at some of the shortcomings that's been going on within the prosecutor's office. A lot of us who are not working in the prosecutor's office right now don't actually know what's going on. We just know what we know from either working there or what we hear. So I think that a steering committee in the first 6 to 9 months would be very advantageous to the prosecutor's office to recognize some of the shortcomings and how we can work together as a society and as a public service to the community. So that would be one area to start. As far as diversity, again, just going out and trying to advocate to other young lawyers to come out to the prosecutor's office to start their career there, to teach them, to treat them with some dignity, also to have training, and basically that's it, just to keep it going.
Councilman, I think that the best way to measure what somebody will do is take stock of what they have done. What I will say to you is I will be that same person that you know. The same person that you were aware of on the Cleveland Municipal Court day in, day out, building a reputation for fairness and integrity, working, believing to my core that I am part of this community, that the children of this community are my children. The work that I've done in education and law-related education endeavors with the students of our community, establishing the mock trial competition, the involvement with the 3R program, involved with our profession and university. I am who I am. I demonstrated that in my trial practice. I demonstrated that as a judge of the community when I stood in judgment as cases that came, doing my best to demonstrate fairness and a lack of bias every single day of my life. I think I represented that as law director and prosecutor for the city of Cleveland. It is beyond my professional choices. It's part of my personal choices. I live in a diverse community. I worship in a diverse church. I send my children to a very diverse school. It's who I am, it's what I have been, and so I say to you, to answer your question, is that there is just a deep down commitment just to continue who I am, what I have been, and what is true to me.
When we think about the qualities we're looking for in the next prosecutor, one of the things that needs to be there is a sense of passion, and yes, indignation about the way things have been, and a commitment to where we need to go. And as you know, Councilman Johnson, from our many discussions together over the years and our service together in administration, this is the work of my life. And so when police officers use deadly force inappropriately, I charge them. Even though that was very controversial, and even though those cases magically disappeared when they went over to the county prosecutor's office. And when an African-American college student was beaten up by Cleveland police officers for driving while black on the west side of town, I took up his cause and represented him as passionately as possible. And when Ken Blackwell was disenfranchising minority voters, I took up the cause and got the job done. I got two consent orders from a U.S. District Court stopping him dead in his tracks. What matters is what you've done. That's the only way you can measure what kind of person someone's going to be in the job. And I wouldn't run for this job. I have two happy alike. Look at my kids on the back of my literature. I got triplet 7.5-year-old boys who I'd rather play Legos and Star Wars lightsabers with. But I have to show them that there's a community that needs their help, that needs our family's help, that needs our commitment. If this is going to be a community that they live in someday. So, what I ask from all of you is take a look at the record and figure out who's actually, look at those diversity sheets, who's actually already done the hiring of diversity, who's already fought bias. I work as a civil rights lawyer day in and day out. That's the way you'll determine who's really going to be on your side in the county prosecutor's office. Okay.
Issues. Fairness, number one. Nobody will ever say I'm not anything but fair. I am a fair person, and everybody knows that. End of story. Second thing you talked about was diversity. You weren't here, that question was asked before. And what I said then, and I'll say again, is that the executive committee, when they asked me what the 3 goals of the office were, the number 1 goal I said was diversity. And saying that was to a crowd that maybe didn't want to hear that when you look at the entire county. And that was my answer. So I said it in front of everybody in the entire county. You talked about charging. You and I had a conversation about that a long time ago. And I learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot in this entire year campaigning, what it matters. With respect to the grand jury system, nobody should ever be overcharged. You should go in front of the grand jury. The prosecutor who presents that evidence to the grand jury should not just say, this is an aggravated burglary and an assault. They should say, examine the facts, and you, 9 out of 14, determine whether or not there's probable cause to believe a crime exists, because that's the standard. And so if I went to your house, Jeff, and I was mad at you, and I punched you, that's an assault. Everybody agrees. But they also now get charged as an aggravated burglary, because technically it is. And that's unfair to anybody, because even if you never get convicted of aggravated burglary, that's on your record. Your arrest record is an aggravated burglary. And that shouldn't happen. And because I'm respected by everybody downtown in that system, I have the strength and resolve to make the difficult decisions. And I will tell my county prosecutors, you just charge for what they did. That's going to make the work of the county prosecutor a little harder, but that's okay, because you know what I've done my whole life? I work. Just like I've worked this last year and a half to be elected county prosecutor, we'll work as county prosecutors, and we'll do the right thing every day.
Questions from the audience? And we'll please let them be questions, not comments, but questions. Time to keep right. Cut it down for 1 minute. Question time. Question 1 minute as well. Want to take a comment? Let's start a line.
Rosemary McAllister, Ohio Family Rights. That being said, I work